Welcome to the RSI Trade of the Day. My name is Benjamin Poole, head trader here at Verified Investing. I just want to say thank you so much for joining me at 8:45 every morning. And if you guys are new here, what we're going to do is we're going to go over the last trade of the day that one I gave out yesterday, which actually worked out quite nicely. I'm going to go over a couple chart setups, and then I'm going to give you the trade of the day. So let's go ahead and just jump into the recap from yesterday. Like I said, this thing worked out quite nicely. So here's a chart of Reddit. So Reddit, I had mentioned on Friday, had this really powerful relative strength index and price movement. It stayed above the 70. It did. So caveat that with, it was below the 30 at the beginning of the day. However, it moved higher and stayed in this 30 to 70 range while the price action of Reddit stayed higher. And so for me, this was a setup that said, okay, we are likely to go higher. And in fact, it got so close to the $250 level that we are going to go ahead and play that even number, 250 whole round number, and wait for a pullback. And so what happened is I actually gave this to the trading room at the beginning of the day. And I said, hey, I'm looking at this $250.12. I moved away from it because sometimes they pop really quickly. Sometimes they take a little bit of time. Well, I switched away from it. I looked at NXT, which is another good trade setup. And then I looked back and Reddit was actually higher. And so we actually got in at $251.45. So it did pierce that level. We got in here and we ended up taking $4. So I waited for a $4 pullback. And when I gave you guys my entry, I said, all right, we're looking for a $3 to $5 pullback on this. Just because it's not like overly extended. It is on the daily time frame, really overly extended, but intraday, it wasn't quite as extended as I would have liked. So got a nice pullback and actually got back below 240. And so it ended up working out quite nicely. So congratulations if you guys were able to enter this trade. And good job on your patience if you waited for the $5, the $245 level. So if you guys are interested in joining us in the live day trading room, we go over our exact entry prices, our exit prices. We give you our everything that you need to know. Not only that, but we also give you the percentage of the portfolio that we're looking to get into. So please come join us. We'll walk you through all these trades. Had we had to add to this position, I had added, I had an add every $3 higher, but we give you guys those as well. And then we basically walk you through the trade so that allows you to make money. So anyway, just wanted to let you know that we did successfully take this in the live day trading room. Okay, so another one that I was looking at is Newsmax. Newsmax has been a crazy mover as of late. Look at this RSI action. It did drop below the 30 several times throughout the day yesterday. However, later on in the day, look at this movement on the Newsmax, NMAX, where the relative strength index stayed really high above the 30. Sorry, this was yesterday's price action. It began right here. So the relative strength index on Newsmax was pretty high. So what we do is we go to in the daily time frame to see where some resistance levels are and where there's likely to be a pullback. It looks like it filled this gap right here for Newsmax. So based on the relative strength index and this movement higher, if it gets up to 1467, you're going to face some resistance. And if you go back to the intraday, this chart screams that it's likely to move higher today. So look for about a 4% move higher, face resistance, and that's where you could potentially take a short. And the reason I mentioned that it could go up that high is because look at ARRY. ARRY, the price action I had mentioned on Friday, all day pretty much stayed above the 70. Towards the end of the day, it did drop off, but then look at today. Look at today's price action. ARRY ended up making an 8% move to the upside after this late day sell-off on Friday. But then this is great price action for ARRY. So I have a level a little bit higher, 887, if you guys are interested in taking that for a short. Duolingo was another one. Yesterday stayed above the 70 for an extended period of time. It did drop below the 30 just slightly. However, based on the relative strength index and the price action, it stayed in such a tight range that for me, this indicates that it's going to go higher today. And so similar, we want to take a look at what happens on the daily time frame and check out where potential resistance can be. So I'm looking at about the $400 level or pretty close to it. So that for $371, that'll be about a 6% move. As you can see, the price on Duolingo can move quite rapidly. It was up as much as 31% and then had this huge catastrophic drop on the back of earnings. And now it's getting this bid. So $397.61 is where I would be looking to take an entry on this. This is what happens when you see the relative strength index staying above the 70 for the extended period of time. Like, for example, MongoDB. Either this happens towards the end of the day where you have a late day sell-off, or you have this pop to $232 and then a drop. This one decided it wanted to drop towards the end of the day. However, it was only a 1.5% move. So similar to the other trade or the other chart setups, you want to go intraday and look, or on the daily time frame and see where there's additional resistance. So you've got this wide range red bar candle that if price action gets above this $230 level, it is likely to head up to $234.75. The other thing I'm noticing on MongoDB is this was, and I've gone over this a couple times, you've got a relatively strong stock after this big reversal candle right here. See this green bar candle? This gave a great indication that the bottom was likely in, and then you have this continued move up. You've got some good price action as far as the overall percentages of the moves. And you notice that the relative strength index on MDB has been staying pretty consistent, meaning once it gets decently above 70, it gets this nice pullback. Once it gets below 40 or 50, it gets this nice bounce. So it's still a relatively strong stock. And as you can see, it did drop below 40 on this time, and then it's already up 15%. So what I'm looking for is a price movement to get the relative strength index to stay below this high peak right here at 75 on the relative strength, 76 on the relative strength index, whereas price action heads up a little bit higher than this pivot and then gets up into this gap fill. So for me, this would be a no-brainer swing trade. It's $264.13. If you can get price action at this level into this gap fill, and the relative strength index anywhere above 74, but not above 76. Okay. Again, this would be a nice possible day trade for MDB. Swing trade for MDB. And you'd be looking for about a 10 to 12% pullback, or you could even wait until the midline of the relative strength index. So right about the 50. All right. So next thing on my radar is Bitcoin. Bitcoin is respecting the relative strength index as well. As you can see, it popped above the 70 and then got a rejection, got back below 40, 50, nice pop. Almost, it tried to get back above, created this negative RSI divergence, and now it's starting to roll over. So the line in the sand right now is this upswing trend line. So you had this previous pivot high, and then it got above it. Once you got above it, there was support, tried to break down, got above it again, took out the all-time high, and then reversed. So if it stays below this upswing trend line, based on the relative strength index, you could actually look for a breakdown below the 30 on the RSI of Bitcoin. Okay, so you're still going to have a bunch of support levels. $111,906 is going to be a really good level for me on that. All right, Tempest AI. So Tempest AI is another strong stock, and let's go ahead and get into the trade of the day. All right, so Tempest AI is the trade of the day. Look at this chart. This was the beginning of the morning session. It started negative, and then all of a sudden, it got this nice rally. It looked like it was going to get significantly below, but I don't consider getting to 28 oversold. So for Tempest AI, had this really consolidated price movement as it was heading higher. So my trade of the day today, guys, is short Tempest AI, $81.95. So if you go to the daily time frame, you've got this nice red bar candle right here. So this is the lower end of the red bar candle. So this is the closing price. You do have a gap fill at $85.71. However, this is my potential max upside for this particular trade or chart. Tempest AI short 91 or $81.95. If it closes above $81.95 on a 15-minute closing basis, you can go ahead and stop out. If you are somebody who likes to trade and is super familiar with it, you could have 2 ads. And so you would add one time around $83.65, and then another ad at $85.71. So then you have about a 0.3 of a position, and then wait for a decent pullback. I would say you could take 3 to 5% on this, just based on the fact that it's overly extended on the time frame. Plus, if it gets into that level, it's a good move to the upside. So that's what I have for you guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys like what you guys are seeing, please make sure to follow, like, subscribe, ring that bell so you can get notified at 8:45 in the morning. And please stay tuned. Gareth has the game plan. He's going to go over some exciting stuff at 9 o'clock. So stick with us, and we'll see you guys next time in the charts. Take care.